This video is for understanding the basics of what goes on in SEO. I sent you a PowerPoint slide as well that you can follow along with, just for a little bit better understanding. So here we go. So let's first talk about ranking. A lot of people won't understand what you mean by when you say ranking. So sometimes it's just easier to have a decent explanation in the back of your head. So when I search limo service in Overland Park, when you look at what appears, this area here, it's called the map pack. The map pack will always show three of the top businesses that Google wants to show. They have changed this before. It used to be 5, it used to be 1, but they're at 3 now. They haven't changed it for a while, but you never know. But so this area is called the map pack. If you look at Overland Park Limo Service, they would be considered ranking number 1 in the map pack. So essentially, ranking, it's just a term used to determine where a website appears when you search for a certain service. If you look below here, these are called what's the organic rankings. So both ranking in the map pack and organically, they're kind of tied hand in hand, but they are a little bit separate, so you can rank organically without being in the map pack and vice versa. Both are definitely revenue generating spots to be in. So you're definitely going to be missing sales if you're not ranking in the map pack, and you're going to be missing sales if you're not ranking organically as well. So for example, if you look at this Overland Park Limo Service, they would be ranking number 1 in the PowerPoint that I sent. They're actually ranking number 2. So everything changes. That's not a huge change, but things change a lot. If you look at Casey Limo, they'd be considered ranking number 2. Test Limo number 3 organically. Peck Limo number 4. Then you look at here, this is Yelp. It's a Yelp listing. We usually, when talking about ranking organically in the spot that they're in, we don't consider things like Yelp or Yellow Pages or more directory sites in that ranking. So you would kind of skip this and then look at Legacy Limo as ranking number 5 organically. So when you look at this as well, this is all considered page 1 rankings. If you look down here, it's obviously page 1, pretty self-explanatory. If you click on page 2, these are page 2 rankings. So if someone says, oh, I'm ranking on page 2 for the term limo service Overland Park, you know where they're ranking. Alright, so the next thing is domains. Let's just look at Overland Park Limo Service. So this up here, www.overlandparklimoservice.com, is the domain name. That's important, not because necessarily of the name, but because of different factors that I'll talk about later. I just want you to know that that is the domain name. So caseylimo.com is the domain. Next, content. This is something like this stuff. So when you usually hear the word content, you think, okay, the amount of stuff that's on their webpage. When speaking in SEO terms, it's literally the amount of text on their website. And not necessarily just any random text. It's got to be keyworded text, or I guess another way of saying that is relevant text. So you can't just type in stuff about the Royals here and think you're going to rank. The content has to be about limos. As you can see here, there is a solid amount of content about limos. Content is extremely important in ranking because Google sends their little computer bot, I guess you can call it, and it literally reads all this text to see how important it is to a certain area. What Googlebot cannot read are things like this. This is a picture. It doesn't read the picture. It doesn't read this picture. It doesn't read this picture. So, although it does see it, and I can talk about the importance of that stuff later, but the main thing is you want a solid amount of text on your website for content purposes. Alright, and keywords in terms of the content. So, let's go back here. Limo service, Overland Park. So limo service is the keyword. That's what a normal consumer would search for if looking for a limo. Obviously, not everybody is the same. Not everybody thinks the same, so there's going to be different variations of this. But in terms of content, you want your content keyworded specifically. So, as you can see here, Overland Park Limo Service, it's bolded. It's in here. Let's see how often that is. So, limo service, limousine service, limo services, limo services, limo services. As you can see, it's mentioned quite a few times. So you can see that this content is keyworded properly because you have a bunch of mentions of your specific keyword that you're trying to rank for. Now, important is you don't want to over keyword content. You want it to read very, very similar to a magazine or a newspaper, very fluid, because Google can recognize if you're just trying to keyword stuff your content. So that would mean you would literally write limo service almost in every single sentence. That's called keyword stuffing, and Google recognizes that, and they do not help you with your ranking when they find that. So do not keyword stuff. Okay, let's talk about backlinks. Alright, so I'm on kctv5.com. You guys know that. So this cjonline.com is a backlink to cjonline.com. So technically the correct way of saying that would be cjonline.com has a backlink from KCTV5 simply because they have a link to their website on KCTV. So this is considered a backlink. The more backlinks you have, the higher your site will rank. Now, I'll do a separate video on backlinks because there's a little bit more to go into it, but just for keyword terms, that is considered a backlink for cjonline.com. So the other important keyword to know is called anchor text. So this would be considered a naked URL. The anchor text is essentially what the link is on. So if cjonline.com wanted a, let's say, top stories. Let's say top stories. So you could put top stories here and have it link to cjonline.com. So that would be considered changing the anchor text because the actual link is different than the actual URL. So that is what's called anchor text. Alright, we are on to citations. So citations essentially a business's name, address, and phone number listed somewhere on the internet. An easy one to recognize is Yelp. They have businesses all over the place. So if you look at Overland Park Limousine Services, they forgot the park. Name, address, phone number. That is a citation. The more citations you have, the higher you can rank in the map pack. The important thing here is that I don't believe this citation is counting or helping with the map pack, because you have to have exact matches for all your citations. Because they forgot the word park here, this eliminates the citation because Google sees it as a completely separate business. They would recognize that Overland Limousine Service doesn't have some Google listings, so they would just kind of play it off, I guess is an easy way to say it. So your citations have to be exact matches across the board. Okay, so that's my kind of descriptions video of certain keywords that you need to know. Importance, I have an 80-20 rule. 80% of the things you just learned are by far the most important in ranking. Obviously, you still need to learn a little bit more about why these things are important, but 80% of it is just that. Most people have no idea why, and I can explain that later, but 20% is the rest, which I'll have another video on as well. But yeah, 80%, 80-20 rule.